Story number 1, gas leak. I was finishing up a logo revision when the knock came. Not a normal knock, urgent hard, the kind that makes your chest tighten before you even know why. I checked my phone, 4:37 in the afternoon. Still light outside, but the sky over Portland was that flat gray it gets in late October, the kind that makes everything feel like it's happening underwater. I opened the door and there was a man in a reflective safety vest, maybe 50, with a clipboard tucked under his arm. He didn't smile. "Gas leak?" he said. "Your downstairs neighbor reported it about 20 minutes ago. We need to check your unit immediately." I felt my shoulders drop a little. A gas leak. That's the kind of thing you don't argue with. I'd read about carbon monoxide poisoning, how it kills you in your sleep, how you don't even know it's happening. "Okay," I said. "Come in." He stepped inside and I closed the door behind him. I didn't think about it then, but I should have noticed right away that there was no truck outside, no van with a logo. Nothing in the driveway but my car and the neighbor's sedan. "I'll need to check all the appliances," he said, already moving toward the kitchen. "And the connections. Gas can pool anywhere if there's a leak." "Sure," I said. I was still in work mode. I had my headphones around my neck, the logo project open on my monitor in the other room. I wasn't thinking clearly. "Do you need me to?" "Just let me work," he said. He opened the cabinet under my sink, sniffed near the stove, opened the cabinet where I keep my pots and pans and leaned in close, his face almost touching the metal. Then he pulled out a small bottle from his vest pocket, something clear with a spray nozzle, and sprayed it near the edge of my doorframe. The smell hit immediately, sharp, chemical, acrid, like something burning but not quite. My stomach clenched. That smell, that had to be it. That had to be the gas. "That's the tracer," he said, not looking at me. "Helps us detect the leak." He moved into the living room, opening cabinets I didn't even know I had, checking outlets, sniffing near the baseboard. His movements were efficient but also something else. Thorough in a way that felt like more than just checking for a gas leak, like he was mapping the space. "I need to check the bedroom," he said. "Okay." I followed him down the hallway. My phone was on my desk in the other room. My keys were on the kitchen counter. I was aware of this suddenly, acutely aware, the way you become aware of your own breathing when you're trying not to panic. He opened my bedroom closet. The light inside was dim, just a single bulb. He stepped in and I stayed in the doorway, watching. He ran his hand along the wall, slowly, like he was feeling for something. His fingers traced the seam where the wall met the shelf. He was still in there, still touching the wall, when he glanced back at me over his shoulder. Our eyes met for maybe a second. His expression didn't change. But something in that glance, something in the way he was looking at me while his hand was still on my closet wall, made my skin go cold. I stepped back. "You know what?" I said, and my voice came out steadier than I felt. "I'm going to call the utility company directly while you finish, just to confirm they sent you." He came out of the closet slowly. "That's not necessary," he said. "I'd rather." He stared at me for a moment. Then he nodded very slightly. "I'll check the exterior meter," he said. "I'll be outside." I waited until he was in the hallway. Then I closed the bedroom door and went to the kitchen. I locked the front door behind him. I didn't remember unlocking it, but I locked it now. And I called the number on my utility bill with my hands shaking slightly. The woman who answered was patient. She looked up my account. She checked their dispatch log. She checked it again. "No," she said. There's no report for your address today. No service call scheduled. No technician dispatched. I thanked her and hung up. Through the front window, I could see him standing on the sidewalk about 30 feet away. He wasn't looking at the meter. He was looking at the street, at the houses across from mine. Then he started walking, not toward any meter, just walking down the street, his hands in his pockets, moving at an even pace. I went to the kitchen to pour water, to do something normal, and that's when I saw it. The small bottle, the one he'd sprayed near my door frame. It was sitting on my kitchen counter, still open, the nozzle facing up. The liquid inside was clear. I didn't touch it. I locked my bedroom door. I locked my bathroom door. I sat at my desk with my phone in my hand, and I watched the street for the next 3 hours until the light went completely. He didn't come back. No one came. The bottle is still on my counter. I haven't touched it. The utility company said they could send someone tomorrow to check the apartment, just to be sure. I said yes. But I know what they'll find. Nothing, no leak. No gas. Just an apartment that smells slightly chemical near the doorframe, and a woman who let a stranger map her home while she stood and watched. Too polite to say no. I still don't know what that bottle was. I don't know what he was looking for in my closet or why he glanced at me that way. I don't know if he was alone or if someone was watching from outside. I don't know if he'll come back. What I know is that I should have asked for his ID before I let him in. What I know is that the knock came at 4:30, 7 in the afternoon, and I opened the door because I was afraid of what might happen if I didn't. Story number 2, Trailside Emergency. I've been hiking the trails around Asheville for almost 15 years. I know the ridge system, the water crossings, the places where the rhododendron gets so thick you can barely see 10 feet ahead. It's my escape from the classroom, from papers and parent emails and the fluorescent hum of the biology wing. Saturday mornings, usually alone, usually quiet. That Saturday in late May was like any other. I started at the lower trailhead around 8 in the morning, temperature already climbing toward 70. 5 degrees with that wet Carolina humidity that makes the air feel solid. I was about 2 hours in, maybe 3 miles up, when I heard someone calling out. Not panicked, just calling. I remember thinking it was odd because the trail was empty that morning. I found him sitting on a flat rock just off the main path. He was maybe 50, weathered face, wearing good hiking boots and a decent backpack. His right ankle was visibly swollen, the skin tight and shiny. He was breathing steady, not in shock or anything, but clearly in pain. "My ankle," he said when I got closer. "Rolled it maybe 30 minutes ago." My friend went ahead to get to the car and call for help, but that was almost an hour ago. I'm starting to think he didn't make it down, or maybe he went the wrong way. I asked him his name. He said it was Michael. We shook hands. His grip was normal, not desperate or anything, just a guy in a bad situation. I've done first aid training. I checked his ankle, felt around the joint. It was definitely swollen, warm to the touch. Could have been a bad sprain or a minor fracture. He said he'd heard the main trail was longer from where he was, that if we cut through the laurel thicket to the east, we could save maybe 20 minutes and get him down faster. He knew the area, he said. His family had a cabin nearby. I should have stuck to the main trail. That's the rule you teach people. But I was thinking about his ankle, about the pain he'd be in if we went the long way, and he seemed reasonable, calm, the kind of person who knew what he was doing. The thicket was dense, laurel and rhododendron, branches so thick they blocked out most of the sky. We had to duck and push through, and he was limping, leaning on a branch he'd found for a walking stick. I was behind him mostly, watching where we stepped because the ground was uneven, full of roots and rocks. That's when I noticed the silence. Not the normal quiet of the woods. I mean the complete absence of bird sound. No Carolina wrens, no wood thrushes, none of the usual morning chatter. Just the sound of branches moving and our breathing and our feet on the ground. I told myself it was the time of day. I told myself the birds were deeper in the forest. I told myself I was being paranoid, but then I noticed Michael's limp was different, less pronounced. When we'd started, he was really favoring that ankle, moving slowly. Now he was moving faster, more naturally. The walking stick was barely touching the ground. I said something like, "Your ankle feeling better?" trying to keep my voice normal. He didn't answer. He just kept walking. We pushed through for maybe another 5 minutes, and the thicket started to open up a little. There was a small clearing ahead, and Michael stopped. I stopped behind him. There was another man standing in the clearing, blocking the path back toward the main trail. He was tall, maybe 40, wearing a dark shirt and khaki pants that looked too clean for a hike. He was holding a camping hatchet. Not raised, not threatening in an obvious way, but holding it low at his side, the blade catching light through the trees. He didn't say anything. Neither did Michael. I felt my throat tighten. That's the honest way to describe it. Not a scream or a gasp, just a sudden tightness, like my body was reacting before my mind caught up. I didn't think. I just dropped my backpack and ran. I ran downhill, crashing through the undergrowth, branches whipping at my face and arms. I could hear them behind me, or maybe I just felt them, I'm not sure. My legs were moving on instinct, finding the slope, following gravity. The thicket tore at my shirt and skin. I could taste blood in my mouth from where I'd bitten my cheek. After maybe 2 minutes of running, I heard voices. Real voices. Actual people. I pushed toward them and burst out onto the main trail, gasping, bleeding, my shirt ripped open. There was a family there. A mother and father and 2 kids, maybe 7 and 10. They were stopped on the trail, and they just stared at me. I told them to call the rangers. I told them what happened, or at least I tried to. My words weren't coming out right. I was breathing too hard. The father called 911 while the mother made me sit down. The rangers showed up maybe 40 minutes later. They were professional, calm. They asked me questions and took my statement. They searched the area where I'd run from, and they searched the thicket. They found nothing. No Michael, no other man, no hatchet. Just trees and undergrowth and silence. They found my backpack, though, about a 1/4 mile from where I dropped it. They brought it to me, and I opened it to show them my ID, to prove I was who I said I was. My wallet was inside. My driver's license was visible, and on it was my home address, 30 minutes away from that trailhead. 30 minutes. The rangers said they'd file a report, that they'd keep an eye on the trail. They said it was possible the men had left through a different route, that the forest was big and people could disappear into it pretty easily. They said I'd done the right thing running. But what I keep thinking about is my backpack. How it ended up a 1/4 mile away when I dropped it right there in the clearing. How long it would have taken someone to move it that far. Whether they'd opened it. Whether they'd already known where I lived, or whether they'd learned it then. I haven't been back to that trail. I don't think I will. Story number 3, server crash. I got the call at 9:30 on a Thursday night. I was already in bed, reading something forgettable on my phone. when Gerald Marsh's name lit up the screen. Gerald doesn't usually call me directly. He goes through the office manager, but his voice sounded tight, almost breathless. "We have a critical situation," he said. "The main server went down about an hour ago. All the client data for tomorrow's presentations is locked up. I've been trying to get it back online myself, but I need you here now." I asked him what happened, if there was an error message, anything specific. He said he didn't know, just that everything went dark. I told him I'd be there in 20 minutes. The drive took longer because of the late hour traffic patterns, even in Boise. I kept thinking about tax season just ending. Of course he was still at the office. Of course something would break right now. I told myself it was probably a power surge, a simple reboot, something I could fix in an hour. The building was dark, except for the security lights in the parking lot. I unlocked the front entrance with my keycard and stepped into the lobby. The air felt cold, stale. I noticed the side door near the loading dock was propped open with a folded piece of cardboard. That was wrong. We don't use that door after hours. I stood there for a moment, looking at it. The cardboard was fresh, not weathered. Someone had done this recently. I thought about calling Gerald back. Instead, I closed the door and headed downstairs to the server room. The basement hallway was lit by a single overhead panel that flickered slightly. The server room door was unlocked. I pushed it open and found a man inside, standing near the main cabinet. He was in his 40s, wearing a dark polo shirt with a maintenance company logo on the chest. The cold air in the room carried a smell I recognized immediately: stale cigarette smoke, thick and clinging to his jacket. "Hey," he said, turning toward me with an easy smile. "You must be the IT person. I'm Derek, new consultant. Just got hired yesterday to help with some infrastructure stuff." I didn't remember anyone being hired. I said so. "Yeah, one of the partners brought me on. I don't remember which one exactly. They were pretty rushed about it." He was still smiling, but something in his posture had shifted. He was standing between me and the door now. Not obviously blocking it, just positioned there, casual. I asked him which partner hired him. He said he wasn't sure, maybe Gerald. I asked for his work order. He said he didn't have one on him, that it was probably in his email somewhere. He didn't offer to show me. I looked at the server diagnostics screen on the wall. Everything was green. No errors, no crashes. The system was running normally. "The server's fine," I said. "Yeah, I noticed that too," Derek said. "Weird." Gerald said it went down. I was looking at his hands now. They were scratched, the knuckles dirty. His fingernails looked like he'd been digging at something. The lanyard around his neck held a keycard, but it was blank plastic, no photo, no name, no employee number. "I need to grab some tools from my desk," I said. I kept my voice level. "I'll be right back." I didn't wait for him to respond. I walked out of the server room and headed upstairs. My heart was moving faster than my body. I wasn't running, but I was walking hard, my footsteps loud on the concrete steps. The main office area was dark, except for the ambient light from the street. I went to the reception desk and crouched down. Under the desk, taped to the underside, was the panic button. It was a small black box with a single red button. The building manager had installed it 3 years ago after a break in at another firm in the complex. I'd never used it. I pressed it. Nothing happened. No alarm. That was the point. It was silent. It just sent a signal to the security company and the police department. I stood up and walked to the conference room, locked the door, and sat in the dark. I waited for about 8 minutes. Then I heard a door slam somewhere in the building. Then nothing. The police arrived at 9:52. Two officers. They cleared the building. Derek was gone. The side door near the loading dock was still propped open. The cardboard was still there. They found something on Gerald's desk phone. The call history showed 2 outgoing calls made at 9:10 in the evening. One to a number that wasn't in the system. One to my cell phone. That was the call that had brought me here. The call that came from Gerald's desk, not from Gerald's phone. Security footage came later. It showed a man entering through the side door at 8:55 using a key card. The footage was grainy, but the card worked. It was a copied card. A good copy. He'd walked directly to Gerald's office, made the calls, then gone down to the server room. He'd been down there for about 35 minutes before I arrived. Whether he accessed anything, whether he copied files or installed something, nobody could say for certain. The server logs were clean, but that didn't mean much. A person who could copy a keycard could probably cover their tracks. I never found out who he was. The police said they were investigating. Gerald said the card had been issued to a contractor who'd worked on the building's HVAC system 2 years ago. The contractor said the card had been lost or stolen. He wasn't sure. I still work at the firm. I still go to the basement to check the servers. The side door is locked now, and they check it every evening. But I think about that man sometimes. I think about his scratched hands and his blank keycard and the way he positioned himself between me and the exit. I think about what would have happened if I'd stayed in that cold room a few minutes longer. If I'd asked more questions instead of walking away. I think about how easily he made that call sound like Gerald. How well he knew the office, the systems, the routines. How he was already there when I arrived, waiting. And I wonder if he's still out there, if he ever comes back, if he's still using that copied card somewhere else.